In the quiet, rolling hills of Asheville, North Carolina, Logan Price found his peace. A retired wildlife conservationist. He sought solace in the simplicity of beekeeping, raising hives, and bottling honey. His backyard was a sanctuary until Cheryl Whitmore, his entitled neighbor, decided the bees weren't just Logan's. From there, things spiraled out of control, and Logan learned that sometimes the sweetest revenge comes in the form of a little buzz. This is the story of how one man fought for his peace, and the buzz that followed. Logan Price never imagined his retirement would look like this. After decades of working as a wildlife conservationist, he sought peace, real, undisturbed peace. So, he moved to Asheville, North Carolina, a small suburban town nestled in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. He bought a modest house on a quiet street, where the only sounds were birds chirping and the wind rustling through the trees. His backyard was his sanctuary, a perfect little apiary where he could raise bees and bottle his own honey. There was nothing more satisfying than watching his bees thrive, contributing to the delicate balance of nature. For Logan, life was simple, slow, and fulfilling. He woke up early, checked on his hives, and spent his afternoons bottling honey, enjoying the fruits of his labor. There was no rush, there was no noise. Just the hum of his bees and the quiet contentment that came from knowing he was living in harmony with nature. But that peace was shattered the moment Cheryl Whitmore moved into the house next door. Cheryl was exactly the kind of neighbor Logan had feared. She was loud, opinionated, and most notably entitled. She had complaints about everything, from the color of his lawn to the sound of his wind chimes. But Logan, being the patient man he was, tried to ignore her. He had a life to live, and Cheryl, he thought, was just a temporary annoyance. Until the day she decided honey should be community property. It started as a casual conversation, or so Logan thought. Cheryl strolled over to his backyard one afternoon, a scowl on her face. "You know, Logan," she said, "the bees are part of the neighborhood. It's only fair that we share the honey. After all, we all live here, don't we?" Logan was stunned. He had dealt with many bizarre demands in his life, but this was a new one. "I'm not sure what you mean, Cheryl," he replied, keeping his tone calm. "The honey is for personal use." "Personal use?" Cheryl scoffed. "How selfish. You're hoarding nature's resources. The HOA should step in and force you to share." Logan was taken aback. He had heard about the HOA in passing, but he had never paid much attention. He assumed it was just a bunch of busybodies with nothing better to do. But Cheryl was different. She was relentless, and when she put her mind to something, she made sure it happened. The very next day, Logan returned from the farmer's market to find Cheryl standing in his backyard in a cheap Amazon beekeeper suit. She was clumsily attempting to raid his hives, her hands shaking as she fumbled with the hive lid. Logan stood frozen for a moment, watching her from the doorway. The sight was absurd. Cheryl, the self-proclaimed expert, trying to steal honey from bees who, quite frankly, didn't care for her at all. Logan could see the bees weren't having it. As soon as Cheryl lifted the lid, they swarmed, furious at the intrusion. It was chaos. Cheryl screamed and flailed, knocking over a stack of empty boxes as she tried to run. She tripped over her own feet, landing hard on the ground, her face covered in angry, stinging bees. She rolled across the lawn, knocking into a neighbor's SUV and squirming like a character in a slapstick horror film. Logan watched, torn between shock and a wicked sense of amusement. The whole scene felt like something out of a comedy sketch. But it wasn't funny to Cheryl. Her face swelled, her eyes bulging as she continued her bizarre, bee-infested dance through the yard. Logan stood there, unsure whether to help or just laugh. Eventually, Cheryl stumbled back to her house, muttering curses under her breath. Logan had no sympathy. He had warned her, in his own way, that messing with his bees wasn't a smart move. The next few days brought more absurdity. 3 men showed up at his door, dressed in cheap orange vests, claiming to be contractors sent by the HOA. They had no business card, no official documentation, just a piece of paper that looked like it was printed from a home computer. The official letter was typed in Arial font, signed with a childish, "Sincerely, HOA Cheryl." They said the HOA had ordered them to confiscate Logan's hives. Logan wasn't having it. He filmed the whole exchange on his phone, threatening to call the police. The men, clearly out of their depth, backed off and left without a word. It was laughable. But Logan knew Cheryl wouldn't give up. She was relentless. The next day, Logan marched straight to the HOA office, a small building on the edge of town. He walked in, video in hand, and played the footage for everyone in the room, including the vice president of the HOA. The man watched with increasing discomfort as Cheryl's actions were exposed for what they were, an overreach of power. When the vice president saw that Cheryl had acted without the board's approval, he made her sign a resignation letter on the spot. Cheryl was humiliated, her face turning beet red, but there was nothing she could do. Her reign of terror was over. Or so Logan thought. Just 2 days later, 2 government inspectors showed up at his door, accusing him of illegal food production. Cheryl had filed a bogus complaint with the health department, claiming Logan was selling honey without a license. The inspectors, stern-faced and professional, started combing through Logan's house, poking through his kitchen and apiary. Logan remained calm. He knew he had done nothing wrong. After a thorough inspection, the inspectors finally confirmed what he had known all along. Logan wasn't selling anything. The honey was for personal use. Just as he had said from the start, the complaint was dismissed. But Logan knew Cheryl wouldn't quit. She would find another way to get under his skin. That's when he decided to take matters into his own hands. Logan's next move was simple, yet brilliant. One Saturday, while Cheryl was out grocery shopping, he went over to her house and discreetly applied queen bee pheromone to the shrubs lining her porch. It was harmless, of course just enough to attract a swarm of bees. The pheromone wouldn't hurt her or the bees. It would just cause them to gather nearby. It was a trick, a way to show Cheryl just how out of her depth she was when it came to dealing with bees. Later that day, Cheryl stepped outside to check the mail. The moment she opened the door, she was greeted by the soft, buzzing sound of a cloud of bees hovering nearby. Her eyes widened in horror. Her past trauma kicked in, and she screamed, frantically trying to shoo the bees away. In a panic, she tripped over her own doormat, dousing herself in water from the garden hose in an attempt to repel the bees. It didn't work. The bees simply moved to the shrubs under her balcony, and the buzzing only grew louder. The neighborhood watched in amusement. Some neighbors sipped a coffee, while others filmed the spectacle on their phones. Even the local corgi paused to watch the chaos unfold. The next morning, a for sale sign appeared on Cheryl's lawn. Within a week, Cheryl was gone. No one ever spoke of her again. The HOA pretended she had never existed, and her legacy became nothing more than whispered jokes and nervous glances whenever the sound of buzzing was heard in the distance. As for Logan, he returned to his bees, his bottles, and his peaceful life. No more HOA drama, just sweet golden honey and peace. But there was something deeper in the quiet satisfaction Logan felt. The neighborhood had witnessed how power could be misused, how communities could be torn apart by one individual's sense of entitlement. And in the end, it wasn't just Logan who had won. It was the quiet strength of a man who refused to let his life be ruled by fear or coercion. It was a reminder to everyone in the neighborhood sometimes. Peace is not just about avoiding conflict, but about standing your ground, even if it means a little bit of chaos along the way.